When you're talking about the smart home, I put smart locks right up there with security cameras as far as giving you peace of mind when protecting your home, your family, and your belongings. That's exactly what we're talking about today. We're talking about a very unique smart lock from SwitchBot. Let's get to it. What up, everybody? George Langevere here. The smart lock, a very important component when it comes to smart security and protecting your smart home. That's what we've got today. We've got a smart lock from SwitchBot, the SwitchBot Lock Pro. I want to thank SwitchBot for sending me this lock to try out. This is not a sponsored video, not that that matters, because I'm always going to tell you like it is. Now, the Lock Pro is a retrofit lock, meaning that you don't have to replace your entire deadbolt like you do with some smart locks, which can be great for renters or anytime you don't want to replace all your hardware. We're going to talk all about it. I'm going to do the unboxing. I'm going to talk price and specs. I'm going to give you my full review, pros and cons, like I said, tell you like it is. Let's get started with the unboxing. All right, next up is going to be setup and install. But before we do that, I just want to mention again, this is a retrofit lock, meaning you don't have to change your entire deadbolt like you do with most smart locks. So you're going to have this lock on the inside. You're going to keep your existing hardware on the outside, so you'll even have the same key. So it's great for renters or any situation where you don't want to switch all that hardware. All right, let's talk about setup. Okay, I'm actually going to talk about the installation first, because I installed all my equipment and then did the setup. So first, you just want to plug in your hub. I'm not going to set it up until the end, but I'm going to have it plugged in and ready to go. All right, first up, I'm going to do the lock. I'm going to remove the interior door part of my hardware. For me, that was pretty simple, just a couple screws, and we're good to go. Now they do include a piece of tape to tape down the outside of your lock hardware, just so it doesn't fall out. I didn't use that, but you sure could if you wanted to. But otherwise, that's pretty much just the removal of 2 screws, and then you're ready to go for your new lock. First up, you've got your flat door plate. It comes with these 2 black screws that are going to replace your old screws from your old hardware. You're going to put that in there, line those up, and then you're going to tighten those 2 screws. Now, a tip, and I'll talk about this a little bit in the cons, but you don't want to over tighten this. You want that flat plate there to not move around, but you also don't want it too tight, because then it'll bow a little bit, and one of the steps upcoming won't work as well if you tighten it too tight. So just keep it just snug, but not too tight. All right, then you've got your cylinder to put in the middle. Now this comes in 3 different sizes, so you just want to match it up to your existing door hardware. You put that in the middle and you can see that it turns. That's what's going to lock and unlock the door. So once you've got that plate on there, then you're going to put the main lock on. Then there are 4 hex screws. Now, just a pro tip again, that flat plate that goes against your door, don't have that over tightened. These screws are small, they're very easy to lose. Use the included hex wrench to put them in. They're in a very awkward spot, so just make sure you don't lose them, number 1. Now there are a couple extras in the box, just so you know. But you're going to tighten those 4 screws, and then you're pretty much good to go. Next up, you're going to install the magnet that comes in the box, and they give you a little diagram of where you should put the magnet, but basically I lined mine up with the very bottom of the lock. And then that's just adhesive that goes on your door frame. And obviously you want it on your frame, not the door itself, because otherwise it's not going to work the way you want it to. But basically that's a door contact, just like an alarm contact or something like that. Now for the keypad, you've got your bracket that actually is what's going to stick to your door frame with adhesive or screws. I use adhesive. And then your keypad just connects to that and slides down to lock it into place. And then you place it on and you're good to go. Now, like I said, we've already got the hub plugged in, so now we are ready for setup. First thing you're going to do for the hub is you're going to hit add a device. Then you're going to long press the button for 3 seconds on the hub. Then you're going to put in your Wi-Fi information. Then you're going to name your hub and pick a room. And then you can go in and update your firmware, which you're always going to want to do first. Then you've got instructions on how to add your hub to Matter, which then, in my case, I can get into Apple Home. Now for the lock, you're going to go ahead and find the list of devices after hitting Add Device. Then you're going to find the lock. Then you're going to remove the Battery Isolation tab. Make sure the batteries are in position. And then you're going to get an indicator light that starts flashing. Then you're going to hit Connect. It's going to then discover your device. You're going to update your firmware on the lock. Then you're going to name your lock and you're going to pick a room. Then you're going to connect your lock to the hub. Since our lock is already installed, now we're going to set it up. First, you're going to close the door, rotate the thumb turn on your Lock Pro to the position where your device locks your door, then tap Next. Keep your door closed, rotate the thumb turn on your Lock Pro to the position where your device unlocks your door, then tap Next. Open your door, manually lock your device, then hold the door to leave approximately 10 centimeters between the door and the door frame, and then tap Next. Then you're going to keep your door ajar and make sure your Lock Pro is in the lock state, and then tap Test Unlocking. Close your door, make sure it's unlocked currently, and you're good to go. Then you can do home sharing if you'd like, share it with your family member or your spouse or such. Now let's talk about adding the keypad. You're going to go through Add a Device, look for the keypad in the list. You're going to press the lock and the checkmark button at the same time. You're going to wait for the green indicator light to flash. Then you're going to name your keypad and select a room. Then you're going to pair it to your lock. And it's going to connect. I'm going to do a test code and then hit the OK button. Next, it shows you how to install the keypad. All right, moving on to price and specs. When it comes to price, we have a couple different configurations because you've got the lock, you've also got SwitchBot's Matter-enabled hub, which you need, and then you also have their keypad. Now, the keypad's going to give you that passcode option and also the fingerprint option. So in this case, I think it's very important. But depending on what you want to do, you've got some price options. If you've already got the hub and you don't need the keypad, then we've got $119.99 for just the lock. If you want the lock and the hub, that is $149.99. If you want the lock, the hub, and the keypad, that's $199.99. And then if you've already got their hub and you just want the lock and the keypad, that's $169.99. All right, talking specs, there is a lot going on here because SwitchBot has packed a lot into this lock. First up, because it's a retrofit lock, you can upgrade your old lock in minutes. You've got quick key unlock, which means you can just walk up to the lock and press a button and unlock the door. You've got 2 different power methods. You can do 4 AA batteries, which gives you up to 9 months of battery life. Or you can use the rechargeable dual battery pack, which gives you up to 365 days of battery life, which is pretty awesome. And one cool thing is if your lock is low on battery, you can use their passive power and still use your lock in an emergency. And oh my God, this is exciting. You can get this lock in Apple Home using Matter and the Matter-enabled hub. Man, so many videos lately I've been talking about the lack of Apple Home. It's really exciting to be talking about something we can get in there. And because it's Matter, you can also do Lady A from Amazon, Google Assistants, SmartThings, and Home Assistant. There are 15 different ways that you can use this lock. Let's start with fingerprint access. You can store up to 100 fingerprints. That's recognition in 0.3 seconds when you put your fingerprint up to the keypad. SwitchBot flaunts their precise biometrics. And then with that keypad, you've got passcode access. You can do permanent passcodes, virtual passcodes, timed passcodes, and even one-time passcodes. And again, because this is retrofit, it supports your existing lock on the outside and your existing keys. SwitchBot says that it supports most types of locks in North America anyway, but you do want to check their compatibility, and you can check that on the SwitchBot website. With that Apple Home integration, you can use your lock with Siri and your HomePod, your iPhone, your iPad, and your Apple Watch. And then on the flip side of that, if you're an Android user, you can also use this with your Android smartwatch. You've got geomagnetic auto locking, meaning that it'll only lock when the door is closed. Now, a lot of locks will lock even if you've got the door open and you're trying to run in groceries or whatever it is. This one, you've got that option that it'll only lock when the door is closed, so that's cool. You've got several different security status alerts. You've got an alert for if the door is locked, if the door is unlocked, if the door is left unlocked. You've got unlocked logs, so you can see every time somebody unlocked the door. You've got low power alarms. All right, I know a lot of people worry about a false sense of security with smart locks sometimes. Now, this SwitchBot lock has AES-128 bank level encryption. So SwitchBot knows about that, knows that it's a concern of yours, and they really take that seriously. You've also got a security alert if somebody removes your keypad. So if somebody tampers with it or something like that, or tries to steal it, you're going to get alerted. Now let's talk about some security that you gain with that keypad. You've got incorrect passcode locking. So if somebody keeps trying it and it's not working, it'll lock that sucker down. You get input error alerts. You can do virtual passcodes. And you've got emergency passcodes and fingerprints, so that way you can always get in the lock in the case of an emergency. All right, let's talk about what do I think about the SwitchBot Lock Pro. What is my review? Pros and cons. Let's start with the pros. It's great for renters. The fact that you don't have to replace that outside hardware is great. I live in an apartment. Now, luckily, I have a really cool landlord, and they're just used to me doing all this crazy smart home stuff and YouTube stuff, and they're awesome. But if you don't have a landlord like that, this is fantastic for renters. But man, I got to tell you, this lock is great for everyone. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the ease of install and setup. Very easy to set up. You can have this lock set up in under 5 minutes, and the install is about the same. 15 different ways to use this lock, from your actual key to the passcodes to the fingerprint. Just so many different ways. Smart home integration, using your assistant, whatever it may be. 15 different ways to use this lock, and SwitchBot just had all the bases covered. I find that my alerts are very timely when it comes to the notifications on my phone or my watch, just knowing that somebody's using that lock, whether it's actually in the SwitchBot app or the Apple Home app, which is how I use it. I just get those alerts right away, and that's very important when it comes to your lock and security. And this one, Apple Home, yes. Matter-enabled hub is wonderful. I love having this lock in Apple Home. And I gotta tell you, this one doesn't have home key, but with that fingerprint, I don't really miss it. I mean, put your fingerprint up there, put your watch up there. I think the fingerprint's even easier, but you can still use this lock with Siri. I find that the fingerprints are very accurate and responsive. Whether it's me, Teresa, or Delaney, they worked very well and they open that lock very quickly. Now the battery life. One of my biggest problems with a lot of the smart locks I've tried is the battery life. The best smart lock I've ever used for battery life is the Schlage Encode Plus. Now, I've tested this lock for a couple of weeks, and so I haven't been able to test that 9 months or 365 days, so I can't tell you that for sure. But in theory, if SwitchBot lives up to those claims that they make, that's pretty awesome. I find this lock to be very well made. I gotta say, they had another version of this lock, their older version from a couple years ago. I wasn't a big fan. It felt a little flimsy. You had to stick it on and it would fall off very easily. They've learned from that. This one, man, whole different story. I find it to be very well made, especially for the price. No issues there whatsoever. The auto lock hasn't failed me once. Now that's very important. When you're relying on a smart lock to lock the door behind you, when you leave for hours or go to work or school or whatever it may be, you want the peace of mind to know that that lock is really going to auto lock behind you. Zero issues with that. The Apple Home integration has been flawless for me, whether I'm using Siri to unlock or lock the lock, or I'm going into Apple Home manually. And the SwitchBot app, too. Everything in there has worked. I haven't had any issues with the actual operation using either apps. All right, moving on to the cons. Now, setup and installation was very easy, but in the installation, as I showed you, there's those 4 little hex screws. First of all, they're in an awkward spot, hard to get in there with your little hex wrench. I don't like that. They're so easy to lose. And also, just a little tip, when you're putting that little mount on your door for the lock to slide onto, and then these 4 screws go in there, you can't over tighten that first mount, because if you do, they won't line up properly and you'll have an impossible time getting those little screws in there. So just, make sure that that little mount's not moving around, but don't over tighten it because you'll have problems getting those screws in there. So that's a little con. Now, I had this problem with their first lock as well. I don't find this lock to be that aesthetically pleasing, but the nice thing is you don't have to worry about it on the outside where everybody's going to see it. It's not bad, and it's not like there's an attractive smart lock out there, so I can't really fault SwitchBot, but this one's a little big and just a little bit of an eyesore. Now, in my door in particular, if you look here closely, I've got these 2 little gaps from my old hardware, and you can see those gaps. And if you know me, I'm a freak about things like that, so that bothers me a little bit. All right, that's it. That's my review of the SwitchBot Lock Pro. What do you think? I gotta say, my expectations weren't that high with this one. I tried their lock from a few years ago, and in theory, it was a really cool idea, but I wasn't that impressed, and I wasn't that big a fan. But man, am I pulling a 180 on this one. They took everything from that lock, and in my opinion, took from their mistakes, and they just improved every single one of them. I think they were really listening when people were giving them feedback, and I really appreciate that. And I was not expecting the feature list of this lock. Not at the price point, not at what it is as a retrofit lock. When I was just looking at the price and specs for this video, I just kept spec after spec after spec. I could have gone on and on. This could have been an hour long. There is so much packed in this little lock, and that really impresses me. So to the engineers at SwitchBot, you did a great job. Very impressive. But what do you think? What's your opinion of SwitchBot? Have you tried their other products? I've done a couple reviews on their products. Go back and check those out on the channel. But I'd love to know your opinion. And are you going to buy this lock? Let me know. And if you have, do you love it? All right. Thank you so much for your support. You know I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Man, some of you have been through so much with me in my cancer battle and such. I say it in every video, but I love you. I love you all, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Thanks again for your support. Keep coming back for more. Till the next video, peace and love.